me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Knowing the quality of character of my kids in those programs, that I'm confident that those are the types of things that are being translated into their kids.
The emotions in the mind are screaming at you to quit, and you find a way because everyone around you is not quitting, and so the team's kind of pushing you. And often, if you're not constantly in that environment every practice, a couple hundred days a year, if you're running cross country on a team, then when you face adversity in any form later in life, you just listen to those little voices on your shoulders and you just give up.
If I'm just tired of working in my office, I can go to a park in 2 minutes, sit down, have a lunch, and hang out with the people that are there playing around, the people in the playground, or people are having lunch, walking the trails and stuff like this. And it's a great way to kind of re-energize yourself in just the most simplistic way.
All right. We are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I'm Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, your host, with special guest Bret Fahnstrom. He is one of the, I think everybody from Illinois we can just call y'all the elite of Parks and Rec, because y'all have like the whole state piles money on top of y'all, and y'all get to go the coolest things with it. And y'all just seem like, as a state, a group, y'all are just light years ahead of everyone else. So thank y'all for leading the charge in the Parks and Rec industry and doing so many cool things that we can point to and say, hey, we want to do that.
Right.
So really neat to have you on, Bret. I wanted you to speak about career development, the career of Parks and Rec, and lifting people up in a mentorship capacity for these young professionals. Because it sounded like when we spoke on the pre-show call that this was something that was near and dear to your heart. And I think it's near and dear to this entire network that we're building, the Daily Parks and Rec Show and the media company, is to raise awareness to high school juniors. That's you want to know what your target market is? It's high school juniors. That's when you pick what college, what career, what path, what your future is going to look like. And fortunately, people like yourself go from 22 staffers full-time to 220 part-time, and a big chunk of those are high schoolers that come in, and for a summer you have them right in your back door. And so what a great opportunity to give a great testimony to the industry. So anyway, so how did your week go, and you ready for this weekend coming up?
Oh yeah, well, I'm always ready to go. There's, the week has gone pretty well, actually. And part of the story today might be part of that, because we have a ProConnect program through Illinois Parks and Recreation Association. That was a big chunk of my Wednesday. But I can certainly get into more of that later. But yeah, no, the week went well. As everybody says, you got trying to put 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag, and that's what we do every day. It's Parks and Recreation, and there's no downtime, it seems, but we love it, right? We just want more and more.
Why is it that I remember I saw this, I think it was some cooking documentary, and it describes the craziness of the person that wants to open a restaurant, the chaos. And it was these master chefs that just say it's just complete chaos, start to finish. You almost have to be a madman to even want to do this. And in a very similar light, I see Parks and Rec people, they put themselves in these impossible career paths, and they love it. They love the challenge. They love who they get to help in the process. They love the difference they make. They'd rather, if the ball's going to get dropped, let it be dropped while I'm doing my best to keep it going. So
yeah, I mean, and I know that, just kind of off of that real quick note, I remember my first job, 6 days a week was standard. There wasn't the idea of, oh, I'll shift my work week. So I know if I have to work every week Saturday, I didn't shift to Tuesday to Saturday. It was Monday through Friday, and then Saturday was games or whatever we were doing. And it was just understood, for right or wrong. It was just understood. And we embraced it. And everybody around me was the same way. Nobody felt cheated or slighted by having to work 6 days a week. So,
well, I think you can get, you'll see my engineering background, but if you take a piece of metal, which is very uniform, and you bend it in the same spot, and then you bend it again back the other direction, and you keep bending it, you get this thing what's called fatigue, and it cracks in that spot from overuse. And I think where people get fatigue from their job and they get burnout is when it's just the same action
Mhm.
over and over. That part of your mind, that part of your body, that part of your social sphere just gets worn out because there's no diversity in the workplace, which is the exact opposite of what you guys face. So even though you're working hard, there's tons of diversity in the problems you solve, the people you hang around, the people you impact. And so much of your body and mind is getting fed. And you're not just hammering on one tiny point in front of a desk, in front of a screen, and you just do this for 8 hours a day. It couldn't be further from the truth on a day in life in the Parks and Rec professional.
Yeah, and one of the advantages, and I see that really now more so than it did back in the beginning days. The idea of like, if I really, really needed to mix it up a little bit, hey, I work in a park district. We have 8 parks in our inventory, and if I'm just tired of working in my office,
Mhm.
I can go to a park in 2 minutes, sit down, have a lunch, and hang out with the people that are there playing around, the people in the playground, or people are having lunch, walking the trails and stuff like this. And it's a great way to kind of re-energize yourself in just the most simplistic way. And just, now that it's getting warm up here in Chicago, being first day of spring, and it snowed yesterday or the day before. You can appreciate the ability to utilize our resources available, and that really goes a long way in terms of like I said, the re-energization of that. It's amazing, and I know my team knows that I like to go have lunch. They'll be at their parks and at their buildings. They'll see me having lunch in one of their parks, and so sometimes they steer clear, and sometimes they'll check in with me and stuff like that. But it's a great way, and it's such a great resource that we have available to us.
Mhm. I remember when I used to run it was a big company for me. I had about 60 employees, and I used to schedule my one-on-ones with them in a park, and I would just schedule 30-minute meetings, and we would just walk. You had to walk with me in a park in my meetings, and the meetings went so well. I don't know what it is about moving, about being in nature, about being so yeah, my office was the park system of New Orleans. And everybody loved it. They loved the meetings. You weren't coming into a dark office where I had all this, authority and stuff, and you felt intimidated. We were just walking in the park. Literally, it was a walk in the park.
Yeah, no, it removing yourself from the norm is really, really important.
Yeah.
I do the same thing in terms of I haven't really gone through walks in the park, so I might try that the next time I do my evaluations. But I take them away from, like you said, kind of standard office place. And we went over to the zone, and we'd sit in the gallery room where there's these really comfy chairs, and we just kind of kick back and talk about what the year looked like before, and stuff like that. And I try to get it in a situation where they're not like, it's not a stressful situation. I
Mhm.
do have a big wooden desk here, and it just doesn't fit my personality. And I
Mhm.
really don't ever want someone to think like we're doing my evaluation or a meeting like this, and I am having to do it across this
Right.
giant
This
desk,
big
right? At this
intimidating
level
table.
of authority. So
Right.
I'm like, no, let's go out and go to the zone and do that. Or like you said, I think it's a great idea. Use the parks and do a one-on-one there. That's brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Well, I stole it from one of my mentors. When I used to go with him and I said, "Hey, I'm facing this huge adverse challenge and stuff. Would you mind just giving me some advice?" He said, "Why don't let's go meet at the LSU campus?" And we would walk around campus, which is like a big park with
Yeah.
all these huge oak trees and stuff. And it would
Awesome.
just all the barriers would just fall away. It's
Right.
something about walking in nature that just de-stresses you. Um,
Well, I
that
have a great story for that, but that's for another, maybe towards the end or something like that. So
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. And I've told this one story 100 times to different people. So
All right, what key word do I need to say to remind you to say it at the end, maybe in about 45 minutes or something?
uh, woods walk, de-stress, something like that. I can,
Woods
yeah, 100%.
walk, because I
It,
want to
it,
hear it.
it's a couple minute story, but
Yeah. All right.
it shows the power of nature.
Yes. And actually, I will cite Sevi on a study that I think Duke did about the power of nature and trees and humans among trees versus humans in like the concrete jungle. All right, so let's get a little bit about your backstory. How did you get into, maybe who were you as a high schooler?
Right.
Subjects did you like? Did you hate school? Did you like school? Did you excel in school? Like which kind of little kid were you growing up?
Right. Well, and my friends and my family will still tell you that I'm probably not much changed since I was a kid. I don't sit still very well. I know my wife tells me that pretty much every week because I don't sit still well. And when I stop moving, I fall asleep. So, no, I was that perennial, or I was that daily athlete, right? I was out doing stuff. I was that kid that was out on the bikes, or I remember the story, like my brother, who's 4 years older than me, was with friends. I didn't have a bike at the time, and I was keeping up with them just because I was running alongside of them, that type of thing. But yeah, sports all my life. High school, I started out in soccer, but after the fall was a soccer club, and then I went out for track, and I became the distance runner. So the coach said, "Hey, you run really fast. You're running distance now." And so I was no longer a soccer player. But yeah, and then about that time also, I started playing softball. My mom got me involved with softball down in the city, and I played 34 years consecutively with these two leagues in the city, 16-inch because we're in Chicago. That's what you do here. But yeah, I was an athlete, right? I love sports. I will play any sport that's available. I'll at least try it, right? I'm not saying I'll play it well, but I'll at least try it. But now that I'm older, I don't do as adventurous sports things as I used to. But yeah, no, that was my thing. And what's interesting is that we all participate in Parks and Recreation as youth, and you don't really know that you're doing it. And kind of like you were alluding to earlier, it's like these high school kids, we're the number one player of youth, and they don't even know that Parks and Recreation exists. Yeah, so I kind of grew up, and in high school I was a runner. Like I said, I played softball, and that was just my thing, right? And so then when I went to college, what's interesting, and actually you had mentioned about, like, was I a good student? Yeah, I was a pretty good student. The dean of students didn't know me because of punishments. He knew me because I was on the cross country team, and we just had a group of people that were just really lighthearted. We always had fun doing what we're doing, and so we got to know him pretty well in a very positive way. But yeah.
Now, maybe you can talk just for a minute through your high school career. What did athletics and being involved in it, what kind of life lessons did that teach you that you were able to bring into your adult life?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I still carry some of those life lessons. Cross country, that was my sport.
Yes.
I was definitely the distance runner. My senior year, I was our number one runner. My junior year, there was a couple guys ahead of me. The longer the time.
What was your PR in high school?
Oh, well, it's funny because in high school you just do 2 miles. Cross country was 2 miles, I think.
Track was 2. I think cross country, we, at least down south, we run 3 miles on
3 miles, right? Yeah. They weren't 5Ks, so 3 miles I was probably doing in the 16-minute range.
Wow.
Yeah,
fast.
I was pretty good, but nowhere near state level running. I was, we could have been real good if I had applied myself, but I was a youth, and
right.
I ran on my abilities, not on what I could have been. So.
I just wanted to just pause for a second. If you coach, have the chance to get your child involved in cross country. I ran cross country, and I did not have the body for it. I was actually just staying in shape for a javelin,
right?
Which was an opposite season of track. And so I would run with all the really fast guys, and we had a state championship team. I think they won every year that I was there at the largest division in Louisiana. So I got really lucky. I had a really good coach. But something about cross country, every practice, every race, every time you train, if you're pushing yourself even slightly hard, you find your physical, emotional, and intellectual barrier every single time.
Yep.
Your mind starts playing games on you. You have to become very tough in this storm where your body's like saying stop from
Yep.
your respiratory. And this is so good to put yourself in that environment as frequently as possible, because it just strengthens the mind and the body to overcome adversity. And it's not like you just feel it during the games. Like every practice, your body is screaming, slow down.
Right.
And so
And you can't.
You can't.
Right.
No, you got to take it.
And actually that kind of leads into what my answer was going to be to answer your question was, what are the takeaways that I still experience? And that's literally, I do not give up on barely anything at all, because it's that level of stick-to-itiveness, whether it's something that's physical, something that's intellectual. I have found that what I learned back then through high school and college running, and that level of it's you have to go to a different place with some projects, and I just don't give up. And as I would work, even if I was working out, on my own here, when I would do, I was actually part of a CrossFit gym, and everybody there was 10, 15 years younger than me, and of course they're more fit than me, on the backside of my physical career, but that's where the runner's mentality took over, and I would always maintain right with everybody there when I shouldn't have been,
Right.
because
Right.
Be 15 years younger and I'm still doing the stuff they're doing, and I would punish myself pretty hard that way. But yeah, cross country has taught me some amazing things that has stuck with me ever since. So, and I treasure those experiences.
Yeah, me too as well. And then I ended up coaching cross country for 5 years when my kids were involved as later in my adult life. And I love that phrase you use, the stick-to-itiveness. I might steal that one. That's a great one. I never heard that one before, but it does, because the emotions and the mind are screaming at you to quit, and you find a way because everyone around you is not quitting. And so the team's kind of pushing you. And often if you're not constantly in that environment, every practice, a couple hundred days a year, if you're running cross country on a team, then when you face adversity in any form later in life, you just listen to those little voices on your shoulders and you just give up.
Right.
But the cross country runner has already endured 200 days a year of not giving up in the face of pain. And
I'll try to make this a very short story.
Sure.
I ran, there was a 10K down at school. I went to school in Kentucky, Western Kentucky University, go Toppers.
Yeah.
And they have the Wendy's 10K down there. It's kind of a brutal course. It's a road race, lots of hills. It's Kentucky. And I went through the first 5K in 17:06, which was 4 seconds faster than I'd ever run a 5K in. My mind immediately went to, you've run too hard. You've gone too fast. I felt the body tighten up, everything. And I felt my whole body slowing down because I mentally broke that moment. And I went for about 200 meters at this really slow pace. And I went, it's a road race. So if you have to drop out, but you're not going to stop running. And I picked up the second half of the race. I actually ran a second faster in the second 5K than I ran in the first 5K.
Wow.
But that was like a little time capsule of like what the human body can do if you just, and these are the types of things that I learned running. It's like half of running is it's mental. It's less physical than you think it is. Training the body, and then it's about crossing those barriers, as you were kind of alluding to. And those are the things that translate well into the daily life today. So, 40 years later, and I'm still thinking about stuff like this.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it depends on how you frame it and how you measure it and stuff. But I would even venture to say maybe if it's way more than 50%, because if your head's not in the game, it doesn't matter how prepared you are physically.
Correct.
You'll just quit at the first signs of pain and adversity, and it's coming when you run.
Every time.
And then, of course, when you get into your career, of course, you're never going to face any adversity in an adult life, right? Everything after high school graduation, everything works out fine, kids. Don't worry. No problems. It's all sunshine and rainbows up here. Oh man. All right. So now tell me about college, and then how
Oh,
did you get into the career path?
So yeah, and I know we talked a little bit about this on the pre-gaming the show. I went to I actually went to school for physics astronomy because that makes sense that I'm in Parks and Recreation now. Yeah, high school, the counselors are like, yeah, you need to have a degree. You need to know what you want to do. And it's like, I'm 17. I don't know what I want to do. I just know I like sports. I like games. I like physical education, stuff like that. So anyway, I declared physics astronomy, and I went there, did a semester, got straight A's, loved it, and I went, yeah, this is a hobby. This isn't a career. I love doing that stuff, but I don't see myself doing what the vision would be there. So I declared for a year. I was still running, so I was on the cross country team, track teams, and a buddy of mine was like, "Did you ever think about physical education and recreation? It's all the one department down there." And I'm like, "No, I really had a good time with my PE teacher. I still remember Mr. Avina, if you're around, still impact me from elementary school."
Yeah.
And so I got involved with that. I met with the counselor, the dean of the program, and we met, we talked, and fell in love. And basically got straight A's in the class except for introduction to recreation. Yeah, it was my only B in the program. So Dale Atkins, if you're watching, I remember you. But yeah, from there it was just no going back. It was I found my passion. It fit perfectly with my personality. I'm an outdoorsy person. I'm an athletic person. And Parks and Recreation was literally the calling that I never knew.
Yeah. Yeah. And shout out to all those coaches that have impacted us over the years. I had several, but one mainly, Coach Pete Boudreaux, one of the best coaches, I think, in the state of Louisiana ever to coach. And I remember just going back to him as an adult later in life saying, I still think about the lessons. And one funny one, I remember first time I met him, I'm a freshman and I'm going into this classroom and everybody's dressed out in cross country outfits. We're getting ready to go run, 5 or 6 miles for that day, which just blew my mind because I'd never run probably a mile at that point.
Right.
And he says, "Okay, guys, we practice 6 days a week, and you cannot miss practice unless you're attending a funeral, your own." And he just kind of set the standard there. You got to show up. And then he coached me like that for 5 years. So, and I know there's so many great coaches out there. Thank y'all so much for what y'all do. And if you are a coach, man, it's a great feeling when these massive men come up to you and turn into 5-year-olds again and say, "Coach."
Yeah.
So that's a good feeling.
And it's funny because I did take that type of experience and knowing the impact that people had on me. And when I had my first job back at the Park District of Oak Park, I did a lot of coaching. I coached literally every sport, every season, soccer, football, t-ball, baseball, floor hockey, basketball, volleyball, roller hockey. I literally coached them all for 7 years. And working with the kids was as rewarding as I expected it to be. And I still, not often, but I'm in touch with some of the kids that I remember that were 5 and 6 year olds in K1 T-ball. And yeah, it's so impactful working with them and knowing the impact you have on young people, and not just about learning skills, but literally learning how to win and lose gracefully. And I have stories from both sides of them. And I will tell you, one of the most meaningful experiences I ever had was a game where we actually lost the championship game. But the team was amazing young men. And it was I could still even visualize the last part of that whole game. And those are the experiences that I hope that they remember, that they are those takeaways for them as they grow up into young adults, and then having families, and then hopefully they'll be sharing similar experiences with their kids down the line. And I'll never see that part of the story. All I can hope is that knowing the quality of character of my kids in those programs, that I'm confident that those are the types of things that are being translated into their kids.
Well, I can just speak as a former athlete, now turned adult. I take so many of those childhood lessons into my adult life. And so I got to believe that every athlete at all ages is experiencing the same thing, because, you know, when you're a kid, you're kind of lost. You don't know how to play as a team.
Right.
You don't even know how to put your pads on or anything. You're learning. Here's an embarrassing story. I showed up for my first cross country practice in basketball high tops.
Not a good fit.
Not a good fit. And everybody laughed at me, and my best friend, he had the same pair of shoes on. So, you know, that you're literally talk about just clay that needs molding.
Right.
Was what coaches get.
Hey, I grew up in the generation where I had the tall white socks with the double colored stripe at the top. Yeah.
Yep.
The sad thing is there's actually proof that those socks were part of my apparel.
Yes, and I think that's coming back, actually.
Yeah. Don't worry, it won't be happening in my household.
Right. All right. So now let's talk about more your career coming into this industry. How'd you get to where you are today?
You know, it's interesting because obviously at school, internships, I know that's always a topic. I actually had the opportunity because I had an environmental studies background. And so I was looking for outdoor recreation initially. I actually had the opportunity to work at the Gila National Forest in New Mexico, but just the way things played out, I had to turn it down. So I was really, really disappointed having to do that. But instead, the next summer, I worked at Land Between the Lakes down in Kentucky, Tennessee, and my buddy that I got to know, and he actually moved up here also. Amazing experience, 180,000 acres of wooded lands, and we basically ran programming at a campground. So for scout groups and school groups and whatever. So yeah, pretty amazing experience. And then right after school, I worked at actually everybody in our recreation department at Western Kentucky. We actually ran a Boy Scout camp the summer after we graduated down in Kentucky, and that was another amazing experience. But then it ended, right? Because everybody's going back to school. I came up to Wisconsin. I actually went up to Wisconsin, worked at a YMCA camp up there for the fall. And I'm like, well, I'm not staying in Wisconsin in the wintertime because I know better. I live in Chicago, and that's cold enough for me. But anyway, so I came home, and then, you know, that started getting into like being an adult and like, and the idea that you keep sending out resumes, but you're not getting interviews. If you're getting interviews, you're not getting second interviews. And how do I get started, right? I have the degree. I think I do good at what I do, and why doesn't anybody like me? So I did what most people do with a college degree. I started working part-time, and with actually I was lucky that because I started at the Park District of Oak Park, just doing whatever it took to build my toolbox of resources and understanding what it really takes to do the job within the industry. And 6 months later, I had a full-time job. I was there for, whoops.
Love it.
Timer on the light. Yeah, right. There goes the lighting.
Interview.
But anyway, so I worked there for 6.5 years. And then I went to a little park district called the Gulf Main Park District. About that time, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted my boss's job in Oak Park, but I wasn't getting the experiences to get her job. So I knew I needed to leave to get the experiences in hopes that I can come back. So 3 years as superintendent rec at this little tiny park district. It was the 1 mile square park district, right? 2 parks, 2 buildings. That's it. But I had the title, right? And so I expanded my understanding and knowledge of the field. And then about 3 years after I started there, I got 2 phone calls. Hey, this person just retired. We want you to come back, which is a really cool feeling to have, right? In that you have people that are asking you to come back to the district, and they were peers of mine, and I was really I went back as their supervisor, so that I was very, very pleased to have that experience. And then what's funny is that 7 years later, the director at the Gulf Main Park District retired, and the board president reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in being a director? Right. And so once again, I had these people that say like, hey, we liked when you were here. Are you even interested in coming back?
Mm.
So I did. I went back there, and I had the opportunity to expand my experiences with being a director. And then I was there for 5 years, and then River Trails came calling, and I was like, that's not far from where I'm at now. That just
Yep.
adds about 5 minutes of extra drive time to my day, and it was 4 times the size of my previous director district. Which was a natural progression, more experiences, more parks, more staff. And here I am. And now I've been in the field I'll be 35 years in the field in the beginning of July. So it's a very non-traditional path. Having that in 5 jobs, I've been at 3 districts, and I've gone back and forth between 2 of them. Most people don't do that. You might go back to 1 district. I know plenty of people that have done that at some point, but people don't usually bounce back and forth. But
Yeah.
part of it was vision, part of it was luck, opportunity, but every one of them was about like building relationships, and so that when those opportunities arose at your previous district, and having people reach out to you and say, hey, what would you think about coming back? It's pretty special opportunities to experience.
And maybe talk about, so that's like a 35-year journey, 15 years as director. Obviously, who you were is not who you are today. So maybe talk about the demands of Parks and Recreation and how you had to step up along the way to become someone you weren't, obviously ending up into who you are today. So maybe the general question is, what did Parks and Rec demand of you that you had to just become better, stronger, whatever?
Well, we kind of alluded to it earlier. It's like just an understanding of the expectations of that. Hey, Parks and Rec is Saturdays, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. I mean, like I said, I coached every one of the sports. All those sports played. The older kids played Thursday night at school. The younger kids play on Saturdays. Your responsibilities are Saturdays. Now, if I felt like I could do my job in 5 days, I probably could have done that, but there was a lot to do. And so 6 days a week, it was, at the time, it was just understood. That was the job. You just do what it takes, right? No matter what it is. One of the other drawbacks, if you will, with Parks and Recreation, and I think we all know it in the industry, is that when people are taking vacations or holidays, there's a lot of those that were working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we really know what it's like to take a true spring break, at least for the first 10 years of your career, right? Because you're running camps, you're running programs, you're running events during spring break. 4th of July, they have parades, right? I mean, well, who runs the parades? Sometimes it's the city government, sometimes it's the park districts. Well, we're working those. I know for years at River Trails, Labor Day was our really hallmark holiday that we did. We worked every Labor Day. We just recently moved it off of Labor Day to 2 weeks before, and that was really out of necessity because our pool was open, and we would lose all of our staff, and it was really hard to safely have the pool available. So that was the only reason we came off of a holiday. But otherwise, you're working holidays,
right?
And that's not something that you're kind of told in school when you're doing your degree work. Oh, by the way, you're gonna work everything like this. You just kind of learn it when you get to the industry.
Right.
Otherwise, you kind of think like, oh yeah, hey, I want to take a vacation in July also, right? Well, so your pool's open, your camps are running, all your programs are going. It's not really the best time to take vacation. And so you kind of, as professionals, the downside would be that you kind of plan your time off around other people's time off. Our purpose here is to make sure that our community, our participants are experiencing the highest level of life, and that if that's running events and programs and stuff like this on holidays and weekends and evenings, fitness stuff first thing in the morning at 5:30 in the morning, that's what you're doing. And so that's kind of the sacrifice that going in. Or that you learn when you get there. And I've been blessed with that my wife has been very understanding to that, and that's one of those things that it's really hard, especially if you start building a larger family. It's really hard to say like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't be here for the next 4 weekends. I've got tournament games,
Yeah.
So you got the kids this week, so.
Right. It reminds me of when you host the holiday party, the Christmas party, then you're the only one that doesn't get to enjoy the holiday. Aside from you get to see your family enjoy a great celebration, and you get to put it all together. And so there is a certain amount of fulfillment in there, but you almost sometimes need a vacation from the vacation,
Right.
except this is your career. So I never thought of it that way, but literally when people plan their vacation, they're usually attending one of the events that you put on.
Right.
So, and then that's happening nationwide at every level in every city.
Exactly. And 4th of July is a great example of that, because it's everywhere, right? And
Right.
it's not all parks and recreation, but it's the industry. It is some form of recreation that's being done. And it's easy enough to say like, hey, let's go do this. You don't really think about what's going on in the background, right? In terms of like all the people that are there making sure that the event, the program, or whatever is being run flawlessly.
Mhm.
And that's us.
Yeah, and if you haven't volunteered to help one of these events, I like them. They're fun, they're exhausting. But if you haven't put on like a fair or a festival or an event, get involved. It's I enjoy being part of the chaos, the lead up to the day of, the cleanup after, and then the debriefing, and it's quite exhilarating. But yeah, it'll take the wind out of you, and it's usually if it's a 1-day event for you, it's like a 4-day event.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and all the prep work that goes in behind the scenes. So.
Yeah. All right. So then let's spend the next part of this show talking about mentoring up young
Sure.
professionals, investing in the young people coming in, and then maybe even encouraging people to come into this industry as a career path.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I mean, our industry is being challenged right now. I know the COVID break didn't help. It kind of broke the line of secession for a lot of parts of pools and camp staff and stuff like this. But I feel like as an industry, I think we've started to rebound pretty well. And you had mentioned earlier about like when you're trying to reach people, and the idea of like really making people understand that like at the high school level, this is actually a career. One of the things that I know that our district is doing, and actually I just found out yesterday that like one of our longtime camp counselors also has a marketing background. She's going into that in her industry. And so she's actually doing our marketing internship with us, as well as doing summer camp work. So, we're figuring out how to make that balance out so that she gets all of her experiences. But it's really about educating the young people in terms of trying to get them to understand what the industry is all about, right? And I know that I've got another intern that's doing that with civics. She has a civics minor, and she's gonna be doing some work with me instead of the rec staff. So I'm kind of excited about the opportunities that I can share with her in terms of that. But even beyond just getting the level of the high school and the college kids, the mentoring aspect is really, really important. I've always felt it, and I know that while my path, I've had more passive mentoring. I haven't really had a lot of people that have sat down with me.
Mhm.
I think that might be part of the reason that I'm so passionate about it, is because I've gotten, 35 years in. I've been a director for 15 years, and I won't say I've done it by myself, because there's just so many parts of different people that have made me who I am. But in the same token, I've never really had someone take me under their wing and say like, okay, here's how you're going to do a levy. Here's how you do your budget for your whole park district, not just a department, that type of stuff. And so I've taken several people, and we do one-on-one meetings. I've got 2 young guys that have been meeting with me for like 2 years now. Every 2 months or something, like, get together, have coffee, tea, At
Mhm.
Dunkin' Donuts, we sit and talk for about an hour, hour and a half, just about what's going on in the industry, what's going on in like where they're going and stuff like that, and how important that is to have someone that can bounce topics like that off of, and just and part of it is being able to say, hey, I think you're doing a great job with that. I think your vision is perfect. Or, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Because that seems to be navigating you away from the field or something that could be a really positive. Maybe here's some other options, and here's some people that you could possibly talk about. And those are really, really important. And then I kind of alluded to the ProConnect program. So, I registered through this program, Illinois Parks and Recreation Association, and you're set up with a triad. So me being the long of tooth veteran employee, person in the field, I'm paired up with two other young professionals. One that's newer into the, I think it's under 5 years, and then someone that's been around, between 5 and 10 years or something like that.
Mhm.
And we have these, we just, on Wednesday, we did an educational thing, a workshop, working together. And then we all went out for lunch afterwards and just talked shop and stuff like that. So
Wow.
we're building these relationships so
How
that,
often? How often do y'all meet?
well, right now we're in the actual part of the program. So right now we're meeting every 3 weeks as
Mhm.
part of the ProConnect program. And
Right.
we have two more meetings. We have actually a work activity. Like I think we're doing some buckthorn removal or something outside. And then there'll be a final event.
Yeah.
But it's about building, getting to know each other so that you have these relationships. And so that when we're done with the actual program itself, that we have built this rapport with each other so that we can actually connect with, whenever, right? I still, like at our state conference, I'm always catching up with the kids, the kids. Yeah, they're 30-something year people, right? My mentees, and I like sitting down with them and just catching up with them, and just, again, giving them guidance. And so with this ProConnect program, I'm gonna have 2 more now. So I'm kind of excited about that, because if I can positively impact the career paths of 4 people in our profession, I think that's really dynamic and exciting. And it's funny because I would have never thought that this is something that I really, really liked. And again, I think part of it comes out of the fact that I didn't have this, and I want to make sure that people have this.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is critical about the industry. I know the industry gets a bad rap for not having the best pay, but the industry, I don't think gets a bad rap for giving you skill sets that far exceed where you would be in other industries. So I look at it like this. In the early stage of any industry, yeah, Parks and Rec might get outpaid,
Yeah.
but in these other industries, you stay in their position for much longer. This industry has a reputation for investing, giving you opportunities of leadership, giving you opportunities to move up the ladder, and so that you can ascend into a position of a director or assistant director, moving to bigger and bigger parks much quicker than other industries. So I think if you compare apples to apples, you have to say, well, what are these industries making of you versus what is the park and rec industry allowing you to do? Because I think one key metric to wealth building is increasing your earning potential. It's like one of the golden rules. It's make yourself more valuable. And this industry is making its people more valuable constantly. It's part of the culture that I've witnessed.
Yeah, I don't know how many other industries really share information as well as Parks and Rec does. I mean, and it's not even just statewide, but nationally, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really do enjoy going to like NRPA and different opportunities. I've done NRPA's supervisor management school, the revenue management school. Those are really, really great experiences, and I got to meet people there that are outside of our state, and I still stay in touch with several of them. And it's been, oh gosh, that's easily been 20 years since I've been to those schools, and they were great experiences, great people. So we are in a very different industry. Like I said, this is one of the things we kind of laugh about, joke about, whatever. If you go to a private industry and what you build, you protect, because you don't want someone else to steal what you have. Here in Park and Recreation, we're like, hey, we like what you did there. Can we use that? Sure. And here's the template how to build it. And we
Yep.
know that you might be a quote unquote competitor of ours, but it's about making sure that this successful, positive experience is available in your community too. And you're not going to steal our people, hopefully, but like we did our obstacle course race, and then I got
Mhm.
like 5 other community park districts that did a similar race to it, and I was like, here's the template of how I built this, and this is how we're successful, and I want you
Yep.
to be successful. And I showed up to the first race that they did at each park district to assist with them to make sure that they could run their events successfully and see, oh, like, yeah, here's what I would do differently. And then they've all been going,
Right.
and I think that's really where we're really different than other private industries.
Yeah. And I think the culture of Parks and Rec, it's built on the bedrock of its nature. And its nature is you have to find a way to do more with less. It's not you choose to do more with less. You literally have not enough manpower and not enough money and not enough leaders in your agency.
Yeah.
And so you have to train people up out of necessity. This isn't just like a group or an industry saying, guys, let's just learn to do more with less. No, we don't have a choice. You actually are given tasks by everyone in the community, all the elected officials. You've got donors coming in wanting to do stuff, and you're like, guys, we don't have enough bandwidth across the board, but you're making things work. And the way to do this, how it functions, is everyone has to train up to meet these demands. And so I think this whole collaboration and sharing is just part of the nature of it, because you really don't have a choice. Y'all can do more if you share than if you create little moats and castles around everything you've learned in your agency. We're not sharing this with anybody.
Right.
That would hurt the whole industry. And so I love that's part of your culture, this high degree of collaboration and lifting people up. I mean, that just makes it a great industry to work for sure.
Yeah. And we try to do it internally too. I mean, it's hard to find internal mentors because we're kind of a smaller district.
Mhm.
22, yeah, we have 2 full-time people, but not everybody's in the same department. And you start breaking 22 into 3 factions, and you realize there's not a lot of that, and it's hard to find that. And I really, in my team, my leadership team specifically, and I've even said this to our entire rec team and stuff, is like, if you can't find someone to help give you guidance internally, you got to don't just go find someone outside the organization.
Mhm.
Please go find someone outside the organization that you can talk to, that you can bounce ideas with. And if you don't have that connection, ask me. I'll find someone for you. Because it's really important to have those
Right.
connections within and without.
Yeah. And there's so many opportunities to lead in Parks and Rec. I talked to one of the guys, I think it was last week, and he was saying when he was 23, he was given a senior center and had to run the whole thing at 23. He'd just gotten out of college, and now he's running the senior center and all the programming and picking everybody up and making sure they have all the little, yoga and water stuff. And the whole operation was
Right.
on him. And now whether you're running a summer camp, same thing. There's so much leadership that needs to be
Right.
present for this program to work. Whereas in a lot of other professions, you need like 40 people sitting at a desk just hammering out production. It's like turning a wheel. Okay. It doesn't necessarily take leadership as it does maybe your creativity and your intelligence and your hours, but you don't have to be a leader to basically design this one schematic or something.
Right.
But in Parks and Rec, I mean, you're leading from the day you get in till director, and you're at different levels, but it's all leadership.
Exactly. And I think you nailed it right on the head. Is people could say that because I'm a director that I'm the leader, right? But they don't necessarily see every tier of leadership that
Mhm.
is involved with that, right? I mean, and it started 34 years ago when I was in charge of a neighborhood recreation center. I had my kids that are aligned with the one school and stuff like this, and I had, I don't know, 8 to 10 staff, right? I became a leader immediately, but
Mhm.
it was with part-time people. And then when I became a superintendent, a little bit more responsibility. And then when I became a higher level superintendent back at Oak Park, it became that now I have full-time people that I have to supervise. That changes what you do as a leader. 100%, it changes everything when you have people's lives that you are making decisions over. It's not a part-time job anymore. This is that person's livelihood.
Yeah.
And then it navigates to the tier of being an executive director, where, and I will say that one of the hardest parts of being a director is knowing that every decision I make impacts people's lives.
Oh, yeah.
I try to make them positive. You cannot make every decision positive all the time. It just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just try to figure out the best way to make sure that the organization is successful, the community is successful, and you support your staff at every possible way. And that sometimes it isn't in the cards. So
yeah, it definitely is. Leaders leading leaders leading leaders. It's like all the way down. It's turtles all the way down. It's so I love this mentorship program where you really get to, that you had described earlier. Is that exclusive? It wouldn't shock me if Illinois is the first one to pioneer the rest of the states catching up.
I would tell you that if I'm confident that IPRA has started this program. I'm confident. I might even, I'm trying to think which one of my friends were part of the beginning of it. So did they get the idea from somewhere else, maybe in a different fashion? It's always possible. I don't know. I wasn't part of that planning. I would highly recommend every other association, state association, look into this type of thing. It is, I mean, I don't know the backside of it. I don't know the planning side of it. But
and what's the name of it? What's the official name in it? And it runs
ProConnect.
And it's part of IRPA.
All one word. And it's actually run by volunteers. So there's a board that are all Parks and Rec professionals. So it's actually being managed by the association, but it's being run by the board, right? So you've got, I think they have 10 or 12 volunteers, like directors, superintendents, parks people, whatever, that they're the ones actually making the decisions, making the program, and running it. And the IPRA staff member is the liaison. That is it. And they make sure that it runs, and they help, obviously they do a lot of the communications that are through IPRA and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say that this is a really, really great way to build mentoring, in the state association.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy the level of involvement that people have in these associations and the volunteer work that they do as an industry. I think you'd be hard pressed to find an industry that volunteers to reinvest in the industry more than Parks and Rec. A lot of the associations, I mean, you got like maybe 1 or 1.5 paid people. Well, probably not Illinois, but a lot of the other ones. It's got like, even the person running is a halftime person. Everyone else is volunteer staff from all the presidents, past presidents, secretaries, just directors that are volunteering their time to keep their association going.
Well, and I think that, as a quick side note, I think that in terms of how I got to where I am as a director and the person that I've grown into in the field, I think a lot of that has come off of my time of volunteering within our association. We have another school called Professional Development School, who I've actually gone to it in my 34 years. I think I've actually lost track. I've been to it about 27 years. But it's one of those that they also have a 12-person board. And after so many years, I applied and I eventually was accepted. So I've actually done 12 years of being on their board over, and that's really important because I think you get to understand your peers a little bit better, and you're on like turf with people who are either in the position where they're already directors or they're transitioning into directors, but you're working together as a team. And I think that because of my experiences with that school, and also with IPRA, we actually had, we have a program called Park Pursuit.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of the name of the TV show. I'm drawing a blank. Amazing Race. So we do an Amazing Race type of thing. And at one point, IPRA was going to end it for various reasons. And I was running the IPRA social committee at the time. And I was like, hey, do you mind if maybe we take this over? And they're like, sure, if you want to do it. So I built my committee, and I think I was part of the running of it for about 4 or 5 years. But it's like they've capped it at like we have 40 teams of Park District foursomes, and they do like an Amazing Race type of adventure throughout a day. But the key was that it's about that volunteerism, right? And these are the little things that I think help the professionalism. And I always try to encourage, whether it's my staff or my mentees and the people that I'm involved with, to try to get involved with all these levels. Our state association has all the different committees. I'm on the administration and finance section, and I'm the awards and recognition chair for that section. And these things, and if nothing else, you're getting these experiences, but you're also getting some name recognition. And so that when you go to your next interview, you may not realize that you have a connection with someone that wouldn't have been there had you not been at PDS, had you not been at ProConnect, had you not been at the other races. And these are really, really valuable to growing within the field.
Yeah. And I wanted to play one of our little promos for the industry. I'm going to play the one that Catherine made. And so if you are a park and rec director and you have high schoolers in your presence in your agency working summer programs or whatever, especially high school juniors, go to our YouTube channel, pick one of the ones that says career path, press play, and then give a short testimony of what it's like to be working in Parks and Rec. Maybe plant some seeds in the heads of these high schoolers so that they might consider this as a career path early on, and not get us out of this, what do they call this, discovery category, career path. All right, we'll press play and then we'll talk about this afterwards. And then we have a special woods walk distress story afterwards. All right.
Imagine a career where you can shape communities, create lasting memories, and leave a generational legacy. Welcome to the world of parks and recreation. Parks and recreation professionals across America are shaping their communities, one park, program, and project at a time. This career is more than just a job. It's an opportunity to leave a lasting legacy, improve lives, and help future generations thrive. If you're looking for a career that's both challenging and fulfilling, Parks and Recreation is it. You'll be creating programs, managing projects, and making a meaningful impact every day. Make an impact. Leave a legacy. Parks and Recreation, a career that makes a difference.
All right, so you just played that in front of maybe 30 high school workers that are getting ready to do summer camp. What's your testimony to them if you had to give like a 1 minute?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is by far, the industry is by far one of the most give back industries I can ever imagine, both for you as a professional, as well as you can see like the impact you can have with kids. Yeah, it's an amazing industry. So yeah, I just sat there smiled watching that little video, because it's just like all the different things that you can be involved with, and you had it right down from the program level with the event, as well as like cutting the ribbons with the capital project and stuff like that. So it's and again, it kind of going back to like the first things I said, is like everybody is involved with Parks and Recreation. You just don't know it, right? I mean,
right.
I grew up playing baseball, and I didn't think about the Parks and Rec department there. I just played baseball. I was just here to play baseball, in the parks. I hang out in the parks, and it's managed by somebody, and that's the impact that we have on our communities.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so let's hear the story.
Okay. So for whatever reason, I was just having a day, just not a good day. And it was at the end of the day, and I was headed home. Now, and my friends, if any of my friends are watching this, they'll be surprised that I will have talked for an hour and not said the word geocaching once. They'll know. If you know, you know. So anyway, so I personally had a geocache on my way home that someone had discovered that it was probably missing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going down this road, and again, I'm just in a snit. I don't get into these moods very often, and I couldn't even tell you why. But I was in a snit, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I gotta stop and check on this one cache. So I park, little tiny parking lot, and it's about it was like 300, 400 feet into the woods. So I throw my bag on my shoulder with all my supplies. I go in there, it's missing. I replace it, put it back, everything like this. I go back to my car. I pull out, and I'm driving down the road again. And I find myself, I kid you not, I find myself singing to the song on the radio. And I was just like, blah, blah, blah. I was just, and I literally stopped. And I'm like, okay, if I could ever have a testimonial about the impact of nature on mood, and it wasn't that I even recognized it while I was in the woods. It was when my mood did a 180, and I was probably in the woods for 15 minutes. It couldn't have been longer than that. But my mood, as I was leaving there, I was like, nothing had ever happened all day long. My cares were gone. My worries were gone. I had a good 15 minutes in the woods.
Yep.
I swear by it. And the funny thing is that I know that my friends from high school and stuff like this, I had several people like, man, you haven't changed since high school. Well, I know I'm older than like that. I got some grays and everything like this, but I'm in the woods almost every weekend, and sometimes multiple times. And if I'm on the way home, I'll take walks and stuff like this if I can. I will tell you, I think a big part of the reason that I feel as youthful as I do is because I spend as much time in nature.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Nature really changes you. Sevi is one of the legends of Parks and Rec. He teaches a lot at the director school. He's come on our show, and he's actually doing several more shows with us coming up. But he cites this study that some park system might have been in, I think it was Cincinnati when he was the director there. And they did a study of the life expectancy of a neighborhood. And then they went and planted these huge trees, all like literally lined the streets with them and everywhere. And then they kept measures. It was a very long study. And just by the planting of the trees, now I don't know how they can measure this, but the life expectancy of the neighborhood went up by 4 years.
Right.
Because they just immersed more natural things in nature and trees around it. And so to your point, there's something about humans being out, and maybe it's because we were raised in nature, thousands of years ago. There was no, home like we have today over our heads, but definitely important, especially in today's digital age where we're so glued to screens, for us to get out among nature, for sure.
And at 57 years old, I still climb trees. So
love it. That's what we need to have, like a tree climbing club for old people.
Oh yeah. Well, I would be the first one up there for you. So
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I can't believe it's already been an hour and 2 minutes. I'm like, it seems like we've been talking for 10 minutes.
No, I really appreciate even finding me. I was like, I'm a little tiny park district in Illinois. And the last place that I'd be looking to be asked to be jumping on a podcast. So
yeah, no, love it. We'd love to check back in maybe in a few months and see how you're doing. Love to have you back on the show anytime, and appreciate all the work and service you've been doing for the community. Thank you so much.
You are getting the message out for us.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye. All right. So that was Bret he's the executive director at River Trails Park District, Illinois. Great state of Illinois. Illinois, thank y'all so much for leading the way, leading the charge for so many things, Parks and Rec. You really are doing it right, inspiring the rest of the world, rest of the Parks and Rec community here in America, and just doing some really good work, lifting up your industry. So thank y'all so much for all the hard work y'all do. I've had several Parks and Rec directors from that great state, and gosh, seems like every one of them just fantastic leader. Also, I've today we are meeting with the movers and shakers of YPN. I've got a video conference call with 5 of them, and we're going to put together something special. We're going to brainstorm around a weekly show. So you see how we have like our 12 noon. So we'll probably pick one of the days, maybe Friday, to talk to the YPN network and to make some programming or some media dedicated to the young professionals of Parks and Recreation. So Gabby and Molly were guests on the show, met with them. Of course, it didn't take long for them to tell me about their work and the passion that they have for YPN. They suggested a few other people hop on board. And so we're putting together a little team for that. So I can't wait to see what comes out of this meeting today and what we're going to produce. A lot of exciting stuff. If you haven't watched yesterday's video with Garrett James, I really think that was our first. That actually was our first maintenance, our first maintenance show. And I didn't realize that's how it was going to go. But his show is what I want to reproduce. I want to find all the Garrett James, everyone in maintenance, and give them a platform. We're going to do a 1-hour show before this show. So we'll have an hour of maintenance, and this can be field maintenance, grass maintenance, pool maintenance, facilities maintenance, from the trades and then a lot of the vendors and professionals that we can come in and speak on this. And we want to create a 1-hour show from 11 to 12 Eastern, just on maintenance, and then Monday through Friday. And then starting noon will be this show where we highlight leaderships and kind of what's the why and that kind of stuff of Parks and Rec. And then I think one of those shows, though, we're going to earmark for YPN. So this is kind of what's happening in the background. I just want to give everybody an update. Thank y'all so much for all the love and support. If you'd like to support the channel financially, you can do this as a park system just by buying one of our LED lights that I brought from a former life of mine when I used to manufacture this. This was the #1 selling workhorse light, LED light that you put as a replacement. And it's kind of for small neighborhood parks, ball fields, maybe that need to be a little more budget friendly. Sacrifice zero on the quality. This is a workhorse light. It's a world-class fixture. It turns on and it'll stay on for 100,000 hours, factory warranty, for many, many years of zero maintenance. And anybody that can wire or switch it or receptacle is qualified to do it. If you're not afraid of heights, rent a lift. You take your 5 fixtures down that aren't working, you put this up. Works great on these little telephone poles, these rural parks, and the most budget friendly. I think around $850 is where they start per fixture. You can relight an entire baseball field for $35,000. Which is sometimes a fifth of the cost of redoing everything. And many times you don't need to redo everything. The poles and electricity you have are fine. We're also looking at a strong partnership with Outdoor Link. Hopefully that goes well. And then you can control these lights or anything for that matter in your park system with a flip of an app on your iPhone from anywhere, anytime, set schedule, and give it to coaches. So can't wait to find a way to work with these guys. And I've actually used their system back in the day. So if that's something that you might have, you can knock 2 birds out with 1 stone. If you've got a need of needing just a few lights for a ball field out in the rural area, this is a perfect fit for your maintenance departments, and they fit easily within a maintenance budget. And I will take all of the proceeds from this. This is literally just like selling Girl Scout cookies. Everything that's above the cost of producing this little pack of cookies goes to the Girl Scout. And in a very similar fashion, anything above the cost of producing this light goes right into building the daily Parks and Rec show, creating media for Parks and Recreation. Now, we also have a few cities that have asked us to manage their social media because we're doing such a good job with our own and producing content, producing videos, and they need this for their Parks and Rec department, and they need it for a special event, and they need it maybe to help promote stuff. And this is what we're good at. So if that's something you need, we even created a little standalone company called DPRS, Daily Parks and Rec Show Media Company, for those types of relationships that we have. And again, all of the proceeds go back into building this. It's just our funding arm. And if you are also a vendor that would like to be in front of and speak to the Parks and Rec industry, please hit me up on X, or I'm very active on LinkedIn. We'd love to maybe talk to you about coming on as a sponsor, especially looking for sponsors for our maintenance show before this. I think I and a couple other people can fund this current show pretty good, especially with the LED light sales. But I would be looking for some sponsorships for the maintenance show right before this. So that's going to be a daily show, Monday through Friday, 1 hour show from 11 to 12 Eastern, just focused on the maintenance side of Parks and Recreation. So if you're a vendor and you'd like to speak to maintenance people, you'd like to help out, we're putting all those relationships together right now. So please reach out to us. Again, shout out to everybody that has come on the show, that has been encouraging us. This has just been a pleasure to do this for the community and to give back in this way. Y'all definitely have an unbelievable story to tell, and I'm so honored to be able to help y'all tell it. Thank you for everyone that's agreed to come and speak on the show and tell us, their why, and why Parks and Rec is where they chose to put all of their life's energy into as a career. Appreciate Bret coming on the show today. Great guy up in Illinois. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the hard work y'all do. Again, this is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, signing off for the week. Another great week of Parks and Rec content. We'll be back here on Monday, same time, 12 noon Eastern, and I'm going to start rolling in this 11. I probably should launch it next week, so who knows? We'll see. I'm either going to launch it next week or the week after, and it might be a little train wreck for the first couple of episodes. Also, don't forget, we have our 100th episode coming up April 11th. I think we might actually, because I did a few extra episodes earlier or yesterday, so maybe the 100th episode might land on that Wednesday, but I think I'm going to keep it on a Friday, so that I can have a bunch. So I'll be reaching out to everyone that's been a guest on the show. Y'all stop by, give us 5 minutes to just check in, tell us how you doing, any message you'd like to share on the Daily Parks and Rec show. Please stop by and tell us hello. Y'all have an awesome weekend. Everybody stay safe out there. Love you guys. Thank y'all so much. See y'all on Monday. Goodbye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of Parks and Recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.